My name is Gloria D. Law. I am 31 years old, and the moment my 3-year relationship ended began with the cold glass of a phone beneath my thumb. Jason and I were supposedly watching a movie that night, although he had barely looked at the television. He had spent most of the evening staring at his phone, smiling at messages with a private curve of his lips I had not seen directed at me in months. When he went into the kitchen for another drink, he left the phone on the couch. It buzzed. I was not trying to search through it. The message appeared openly across the screen. Danielle, can't wait to see you tonight. She still doesn't have a clue. She? Me. I sat completely still as the movie soundtrack faded into a meaningless hum. From the kitchen came the faint clink of ice against glass. 3 years. I had been Jason's planner, caretaker, and source of stability. When work overwhelmed him, I prepared meals so he would not live on coffee. When he caught the flu, I slept in a chair beside the bed because I was afraid he might need help during the night. I had loved being dependable. I thought it made us partners. Apparently, it made me convenient. Jason returned humming, picked up his phone, and saw the notification. His shoulders tightened for half a second before he cleared the screen. I muted the television. Who is Danielle? He gave a brittle laugh. What? She's someone from work. Why are you acting strange? I did not repeat myself. I only looked at him. Jason had prepared for jealousy, shouting, and accusations he could use to make me seem unstable. He had not prepared for silence. His expression hardened. Fine. You want the truth? I met someone. I remained seated while something inside me broke with an almost surgical neatness. It wasn't planned, he continued. Danielle is different. She's exciting. She has energy. She sees me. I see you every day. Not like that. He gestured around our apartment as if our home, routines, and shared years were evidence against me. You and I are comfortable, he said. Sometimes it feels like we're roommates. With Danielle, everything feels like an adventure. I nodded slowly. Then you should choose her. I stood and walked toward the bedroom. Wait. His confusion followed me down the hallway. Gloria, this doesn't have to be the end of everything. My hand rested on the bedroom doorknob. I'm choosing Danielle, he said quickly. But can we still be friends? You're my best friend. I remained silent. Then he said the words that finally erased whatever love remained. You're my safety net. I can't imagine my life without you in it. Safety net. Every meal, sacrifice, emergency, and reassuring conversation collapsed into that phrase. I was not a woman he loved. I was insurance against his bad decisions. I turned and looked at him. For the first time, I felt no need to convince him of my worth. I entered the bedroom and shut the door softly. That night, I packed with methodical calm. Clothes, books, work documents, and my personal laptop went into boxes. I left the framed beach photograph and the ridiculous mug he had bought me that read, "World's Okayest Girlfriend." I left every object belonging to the version of me he believed would always remain available. The following morning, I called my manager. The Northwest transfer. Is it still open? It starts in 2 weeks, she said. You would need to move immediately. I'll take it. I loaded my car, placed the apartment key in the mailbox, and drove away. Jason's first message arrived at 9:14. Are you really leaving without discussing this? At 12:30 came another. This is immature. We're adults. We can handle this civilly. To Jason, civilly meant arranging his life so he could keep Danielle as the adventure and me as the woman who caught him whenever he fell. At a highway rest stop, I blocked his number, removed him from social media, archived our photographs, and deleted every digital doorway connecting us. By evening, I was inside a temporary apartment in another city. It smelled of bleach, empty walls, and possibility. For the first time in 3 years, my phone created no anxiety. There was no one to reassure, rescue, or manage. The silence did not feel lonely. It felt like freedom. I believed Jason had chosen Danielle, and that our story was finished. 1 month later, his closest friend, called my new work number. And the moment I heard her voice, I knew Jason's exciting adventure had already begun collapsing. The call came on a Tuesday evening, just after I returned from the gym. The number had my old area code. I almost ignored it, but some detached part of me wanted confirmation that the life I had left behind was no longer mine to manage. Hello? Oh my God, Gloria. You answered. I recognized the voice immediately. Chloe. Jason's closest friend had always found my stability boring. She liked relationships that looked dramatic from the outside. Jealous arguments, impulsive trips, public breakups followed by emotional reunions. To her, calm meant passionless. What do you want, Chloe? Her voice dropped into a conspiratorial whisper. You need to come back. I placed my gym bag on the floor. No, you haven't even heard what happened. I don't need to. Danielle is a complete disaster, she said quickly. She quit her job a week after Jason chose her. She told him she wanted to focus on music and content creation. I remained silent. Chloe filled the space immediately. She moved into the apartment. Jason is paying for everything. Rent, groceries, studio time, all of it. She doesn't clean. She barely leaves the place unless she's shopping. That sounds like Jason's decision. He didn't know she was like this. He knew enough to betray me for her. Chloe exhaled sharply. He made a mistake, Gloria. He made several decisions. She says she loves him, but she's using him. Everyone can see it now. I looked around my new apartment. The walls were still mostly bare, but the space belonged entirely to me. There were no dirty dishes left for me to wash and no emotional storms waiting behind the door. You were always the stable one, Chloe continued. The reliable one. Jason finally understands what he lost. Reliable. The word no longer sounded like a compliment. It sounded like a job description they wanted me to resume. What exactly are you asking me to do? Talk to him, maybe remind him that he deserves better. He chose what he believed was better. He's miserable. That is not my emergency. Chloe became quiet. Don't you care at all? I considered the question. I did not hate Jason. Hatred required attention, and he no longer deserved mine. I have to go. I ended the call. A week later, I learned the situation had become worse. One of our former mutual friends posted an angry public message about someone using a partner until there was nothing left, and then disappearing. Another friend commented beneath it. I can't believe Danielle maxed out Jason's cards for studio equipment. His credit is destroyed. So the adventure had finally sent him the bill. Danielle had purchased microphones, recording equipment, lighting, and a new laptop using Jason's credit cards. Then, when the accounts reached their limits, she disappeared. She left behind several boxes of equipment, unpaid rent, and messages claiming she needed space to find herself. I closed the app and made dinner. There was no satisfaction, only recognition. Jason had confused instability with excitement because he had never been responsible for cleaning up the consequences. I had always done that. Without me, every impulsive decision landed exactly where it belonged. His first attempt to contact me arrived late one night from an unfamiliar number. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I miss you. Please talk to me. The message contained no question about my new job, my move, or whether I was happy. It was entirely about his regret. I blocked the number. Several weeks later, an email appeared in my old inbox. The subject line read, "Please." Danielle is gone, Jason wrote. She took everything. My cards are maxed out and I may lose the apartment. I have no one. You were the only good thing in my life. I need you. There it was again. Not, I love you. Not, I hurt you. I need you. His emergency was simply another attempt to activate the safety net. I marked the message as spam. The next contact came through my office voicemail. Jason's voice was no longer apologetic. It was sharp and trembling with rage. I can't believe you're ignoring me after 3 years. I saw your LinkedIn. Senior project lead already? So you're just sitting there enjoying your perfect new life while I'm drowning? You're cold, Gloria. I hope you're happy. I listened once. Then I walked to the break room and poured coffee. His anger confirmed what his apologies had hidden. He did not miss me. He resented that I was no longer available to repair the consequences of choosing Danielle. A few days later, my direct office line rang. Gloria D. Law, Project Management. A shaky breath answered. Gloria? Please don't hang up. Jason. My pulse did not change. How did you get this number? I called the main office. I said I was a client from your former branch. He had lied to reach me professionally. I'm losing everything, he whispered. My apartment, my credit, maybe my job. Danielle ruined me. No. Danielle revealed what happened when I stopped protecting you. You were my rock. I was your girlfriend. You were both. No, Jason. You wanted Danielle as your partner and me as your emergency service. He began crying. You said I was your safety net, I continued. That net has been cut. The line became silent. I'm not your backup plan. Your chaos is no longer my responsibility. Do not contact me again. I ended the call. This time, I knew he had finally heard me. But Jason still had one last doorway left, and several days later, he found it. Jason's final doorway appeared through LinkedIn. A connection request appeared while I was updating my professional portfolio late one afternoon. Jason Mercer, Operations Coordinator. His profile photograph was new. His smile looked carefully practiced, and his headline described him as a results-driven professional, focused on growth, resilience, and meaningful connections. The message attached to the request was painfully polite. Hi, Gloria. I hope you're doing well. It would be great to reconnect professionally. Professionally. After the messages from unknown numbers, the desperate emails, the furious voicemail, and the lie he told my receptionist to reach my direct line, he had decided to disguise himself as a networking opportunity. I stared at the request. The audacity was almost impressive. For several seconds, my finger hovered over the decline button. Then I stopped. Declining would still be a response. It would tell him I had seen him, considered him, and made a choice about him. I left the request pending. A digital waiting room with no appointment. 2 days later, Chloe sent me an email. Jason said he tried reaching out professionally. He thinks maybe enough time has passed for you both to be mature. I deleted it. Jason had always confused maturity with access. To him, forgiveness meant I should become available again. Closure meant he should receive one final conversation where he could explain himself until the consequences felt less permanent. I wanted none of it. My life had changed too much. The Northwest branch had promoted me to senior project lead after I rescued a delayed expansion project that had been weeks from collapse. My manager called me calm under pressure. Once, those words would have reminded me of Jason and all the emergencies I had quietly solved for him. Now, they belonged to me. I moved from the temporary apartment into a place overlooking the city. At night, light stretched beyond my windows like a second sky. I bought furniture slowly, choosing each piece because I liked it rather than because it suited someone else. I also joined a climbing gym. That was where I met Marcus. He was funny without needing an audience, confident without demanding constant praise, and independent enough that kindness never felt like an obligation. He worked as an urban planner and had moved to the city 2 years earlier after ending a long engagement. On our first dinner together, he asked about my previous relationship. I gave him the simple version. My ex chose another woman, but wanted me to stay as his emotional backup plan. Marcus winced. That's brutal. It was clarifying. He studied me for a moment. You don't sound angry. I was. Then I realized anger still kept him important. Marcus nodded. That sounds healthier than pretending you never cared. That answer stayed with me because it contained no pressure. He did not ask me to prove I had healed or compare himself to Jason. He simply listened. Meanwhile, the LinkedIn request remained pending. Every few weeks, Jason viewed my profile. The platform notified me each time. He watched my promotion appear. He saw photographs from a conference where my team received an industry award. He saw my professional life expanding while his presence remained trapped inside one unanswered request. Then an envelope arrived at my office. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter. Jason apologized for calling me a safety net. He wrote that Danielle had shown him how much invisible labor I had carried in our relationship. He admitted that he had mistaken peace for boredom because he had never learned how to create excitement without chaos. For one moment, the letter felt honest. Then I reached the final paragraph. I'm not asking you to take me back immediately. I just hope you'll give me a chance to prove we can rebuild. Immediately. Even his apology contained an expectation. He still believed my life was waiting for his return. I fed the letter into the office shredder. That evening, I found Marcus waiting outside the climbing gym with 2 coffees. You look like you've had a day, he said. My past tried mailing itself to my office. Do we need to burn something? I laughed. No, already shredded. We walked toward the gym together, and I noticed how easy the silence felt between us. It was not the heavy silence Jason used to punish or manipulate me. It was comfortable without being empty. Later that night, I checked LinkedIn. Jason had updated his profile again. Open to work. The connection request still waited beneath it. For the first time, I understood that leaving it unanswered was not revenge. It was accuracy. Jason was no longer someone I loved, hated, or needed to teach a lesson. He was simply a person from a former life who no longer had permission to enter the new one. But before I could close that chapter completely, he made one last attempt. One that forced me to decide whether silence was enough or whether I needed to erase the doorway forever. Jason's last attempt came through my company's human resources department. I was halfway through a morning meeting when my manager asked me to stay behind. She closed the conference room door and placed a printed email on the table between us. Do you know this person? Jason had contacted HR claiming he was concerned about my emotional well-being. He said our breakup had been abrupt, that I had moved cities while under severe stress, and that he feared I was isolating myself. He framed his intrusion as compassion. Near the end, he requested that someone encourage me to contact him so we could resolve unfinished personal and financial matters. There were no financial matters. There was only another lie designed to make my silence look unstable. My manager watched my face. Do you feel unsafe? No, I said. But I want this documented. She nodded immediately. Security was notified. My direct number was removed from the public directory, and Jason's email address was blocked across the company system. For the first time, I declined his LinkedIn request. Then I blocked his profile. Not because he had finally earned my attention, but because leaving the request pending had stopped being symbolic. It had become an open crack he kept trying to force wider. That afternoon, I received one final message through an old mutual friend. Jason had been warned that any further contact could be treated as harassment. His response was predictable. He told people I had become cruel, arrogant, and obsessed with my new career. He said Danielle had damaged him, but I had abandoned him when he needed compassion most. He still could not understand the difference between refusing cruelty and causing it. I did not correct his story. People who knew me reached their own conclusions. People who preferred his version were welcome to keep it. My life continued. The expansion project succeeded. My team delivered ahead of schedule, and I received another promotion before the end of the year. Marcus and I kept seeing each other. Our relationship developed slowly, without dramatic declarations or tests of loyalty. He made his own plans, maintained his friendships, and never treated my competence like a resource he was entitled to use. One evening, he arrived at my apartment carrying groceries. I thought we could cook, he said. What's the emergency? He looked confused. There isn't one. The answer made me laugh harder than it should have. For years, care had arrived only when someone needed rescuing. I had forgotten that kindness could exist without crisis attached to it. Marcus never called me his rock or his safety net. Once, while we were cleaning the kitchen together, he said, I like that you have your own life. I looked at him. You're not threatened by that? Why would I be? I want to be part of it, not replace it. That was when I understood how distorted my old relationship had been. Jason had wanted stability without responsibility. He wanted someone strong enough to carry him, but quiet enough never to question where he was leading us. Marcus wanted partnership. There was no competition between peace and excitement. With the right person, both could exist. Months passed without another message from Jason. I heard through a former coworker that he lost the apartment and moved in with Chloe temporarily. His debts were sent to collections, and he took a second job to repair his credit. Danielle never returned. I felt no pleasure hearing that. Consequences were not revenge. They were simply what remained after I stopped standing between him and his choices. One night, I opened LinkedIn to congratulate a colleague on a promotion. For a moment, I remembered Jason's request and the ridiculous professional message he had attached to it. The memory felt distant, almost belonging to another woman. That version of me believed love meant becoming indispensable. She confused being needed with being valued. I no longer did. I had once believed the victory would be Jason returning in regret. I imagined turning him away, watching him finally understand what he lost. But when it happened, it felt empty. The real victory was waking each morning without wondering what mood waited beside me. It was answering my phone without anxiety. It was building a home where silence felt warm rather than punishing. It was choosing a man who did not need me to shrink so he could feel alive. Jason once told me he was choosing Danielle, but wanted me to remain his friend because I was his safety net. He believed I would wait beneath him forever, ready to catch him after the adventure ended. Instead, I cut the net, deleted his number, moved cities, and built a life he could only observe from the outside. By the time he found my LinkedIn, Danielle had disappeared after destroying his credit. But his ruin was never the ending of my story. My freedom was. I did not win because Jason lost everything. I won because I stopped caring whether he rose or fell. He became a closed chapter in a book I no longer needed to reread. And in the space where his chaos once lived, I finally found myself.